Hi, I'm Anne-Marie Shields and I'm a woman working in the music industry.
Hi, my name is Aoife Ahern and I'm a woman who works in live music.
Hi, my name is Paddy McPoland. I'm a tour manager and I support women in live music.
Hi, I'm Tara and I'm a woman working in live music.
Hi, I'm Erika. I'm a tour manager and I'm a woman working in live music.
Hi, I'm Holidai. I very much support women in live music.
Hi, I'm Tasha and I'm a woman in live music.
Hi, I'm Claire. I'm guitar tech and I'm touring full-time. I'm a woman in live music. It's fantastic.
So when did you start working in music and what was your first jobs?
Well, I started officially in January of 1990, so it's been 29 years as of this month. But the year before that, I went on tour with My Bloody Valentine on the west coast of America as a holiday. But I ended up helping them organise things, and that's when the first introduction to being on the road came to me.
It's funny because I never wanted to work in music, right? As in I never thought I would. And my best friend when I was 15 was a girl called Andrea Granger, and she got the flu. And she used to do flyers for clubs in Cork, and she worked for one club called Zoe's. She got the flu and she called me and she asked me to cover her doing flyers that night because she was sick. So I did, and within 6 months I was booking international talent, and I worked with everyone from like Madonna to the Rolling Stones, you know. And it all started from there, really.
It was back in 2008. My background was theatre. I was a freelance stage manager for over 20 years. So I started with the Abbey Theatre, and then from the Abbey Theatre I went on tours. So I would have toured an awful lot of the big shows here, England and in Europe. The previous stage manager had been here for 36 years and was looking to retire, and had approached me 2 years before his retirement. He was open to the idea of a woman taking the job. So I jokingly said over a cup of tea in the kitchen, well look, I'll think about it. And 2 days later I was upstairs in the office with the CEO at the time, talking about the job.
When I was 18, and Glenn Hansard asked me to go on the road to sell merch because the old person who did merch was going on a different tour. So I was like jumping up and down, I was so excited, and so I started selling merch then with Glenn about 6 years ago. And then I went to Ballyfermot College and I did music management. And then one of the girls that Caroline's assistant left, she got a different job, and she asked me did I want to be production assistant, doing dressing rooms and just helping her out when there's big productions in. So I was delighted. Yeah. So yeah, that was brilliant.
Yeah, I grew up in New Orleans, so I have been going to live shows, sneaking into clubs since I'm like 12 and 13 years old. I always loved to be around the musicians and the instruments and the soundboard, and so that was my way. I volunteered at a radio station, so that was my way to come in and be able to see music, because in New Orleans most of the time you have to be at that time 18 to see, like, you know, just down and dirty music. Like, I mean, New Orleans isn't really a place where they're known for like their arena shows or anything like that. It's really like the music from the streets. So that was my big thing of, you know, like tactic to get in to be in the clubs, you know.
Well, I actually started out mid-90s when I was my mid-20s. Back then, because I was a girl, I was not mixing. I knew that I wanted to work with sound because I thought that live sound was very fascinating to me and I felt very drawn to it. But I only saw big guys mixing and I thought that looks too complicated for me. I can't do that. So I did everything else around it. I was a stage tech. I would set up a PA system and have it running, but mainly I was stage teching. I would on occasionally do sound for speech or something like that, but I was not mixing, which was very devastating to me because that was what I always wanted to do. But it was definitely myself and my insecurity and my the fact that I was convincing myself that I did not fit in that was stopping me from doing what I actually wanted to do. The time off from the industry really matured me. Yeah. Because suddenly I had a Master of Science and I was making a lot of money because I was traveling around as a nurse. So when a friend asked me some years ago, why are you not coming back to the industry? I was thinking, I had to think about it for a long time because it is a hard world and it is a hard world for everybody, man or woman, doesn't matter. So, so I really had to think about it if I wanted to go back. But when I did take the decision, I said, okay, look, you are having this awesome job as a nurse anesthetist, traveling around, making a lot of money. So you can actually do what you want to do if you feel strong enough for it. So I decided, okay, I'm going back, but then I'm going to be the one behind the mixing console.
This is my first job in music, so I started a music merchandise company out of necessity. We found that there was something missing in merchandise, like good quality merchandise that was efficiently done, and we've grown from there. So that's how I got into it. I had a fashion brand before this. We actually started working with a few brands when we started doing some launch parties for brands we were working with, and they didn't want to pay them a good rate, so we said, we'll make your merchandise through our fashion supply chain. And kind of within a few weeks of them going out on the road with their merchandise, we had 30 bands come back and ask us to do their merchandise, so we realized there was something missing.
There was a need.
Yeah.
I started as most people do in bands. Played in a couple of bands, wanted to tour as a guitarist, but it didn't really work out. It was hard finding the right people. They didn't want to tour, so I ended up going to work at some rehearsal studios in London, and that's how I met a guitar tech. I also worked in a guitar shop, so I was always around people in music. But then I went to work in a rehearsal studio and I was around bands and other techs, and he gave me a break and took me on tour and taught me everything, and yeah, never looked back.
So, did you work with many women while you were on tour or here?
When I started advancing festivals for Dennis, his core team, the bookers were generally men, even though Leslie is a booker for Dennis and she's brilliant. The bookers were generally men, but the people who ran the show in the background were women.
At the start, so when I first started, it was just, I was the only girl on the tour bus. There was 16 of us all together. 15 men and me.
18 years
yeah, I know, they were all old fogies. But yeah, and now it's changed. Now there's a good few, there's 3 stringers on the tour bus. The tour manager, Katie, she's great. I'm learning loads off her as well. So yeah, there's like 5 women now, so we're taking over, slowly but surely, yeah. But it's definitely changing without a doubt, yeah.
When I started out, there were only guys, but I grew up with 2 elder brothers, so to me it was normal just to be around guys. The first time I met another female sound engineer was when I moved to the States in end 90s. I went over there to work for 3 years, and I ended up working at Rat Sound, where Carrie Keys, who does Vantage for Pearl Jams, it was part of her company as well. So I ended up basically working for her, and later on, when I decided to go back to the industry, actually at that same time, I got a call from Carrie asking if I wanted to join her new organization called soundgirls.org, because she said there gotta be other girls out there globally, so let's find them, let's build this platform. So I joined that, and we were actually surprised to see globally how many audio girls that are out there, but they're all been hidden. But now they certainly had a platform which is kind of a spotlight where they can actually stand in the spotlight so people can actually see them and say, oh, there are female sound engineers. Awesome.
It was, and to a large degree remains, as a face of male-dominated industry, touring crews, in relation to, certainly in relation to, not necessarily the organisation, planning the tour and working in the office, etc., working for booking agents, etc., working for the management as secretaries or whatever. But in an actual touring crew, I think maybe there would have been less opportunities, because the perception at the time might have been that it was physically demanding, and would it be inappropriate to see females sort of climbing up a lighting rig and hanging from the lighting rafters, and you'd be there going, oh my God, is she okay? Where if it was a guy, you wouldn't really care, as long as if they fall, they don't hit the kid. But you know what I mean? So you would have, I think, a different attitude to women in close proximity in and around the stage. Do you know what I mean? One would have to mind one's manners, etc. Do you know what I mean? However, maybe I think attitudes have changed. And I think generally, the industry as a whole and beyond, the whole entertainment industry, I think attitudes have changed.
When I first started out, there weren't very many women. Certainly not very many women working as crew on the road, or there weren't very many women in senior positions. Although I did start out very quickly working with Alan McGee from Creation Records, and he had some women working at Creation, and their head of PR already, Lawrence, was a woman working in the industry. He was very good at spotting talent and didn't, discriminate whether female or male, so that was a really great experience for me.
In Ireland, I'm very aware of, let's just say some legendary, when you become legendary, it means you've been in the business for more than 25 years. And early middle age is probably kicking your ass, but there's a lot of legendary women who I grew up in the business with and who I worked with when we were starting out. And, they were real trailblazers in their day, because they were the first doing what they were doing. They were the first women to do what they did in this business here, And I'd like to think as well, the Irish, the age-old sort of sexism that came with the industry was very much, US-centric as opposed to something which we would harbour in Ireland. We're very much about the creative thing here, and if you're good enough, then you get the gig.
But would you say that the industry has been more challenging for women to
30 years ago, it was, still sadly acceptable to use sexist language and be, sexist in company of females, and even female artists that I was working with. I mean, I watched them experience that on a day-to-day basis. Thankfully now, that has been weeded out to a fairly substantial extent, but there's still always room for improvement.
I think it's probably more challenging because they don't see it. They don't see other women doing it, so they probably don't think it's possible or available. I mean, I did it because that's my personality. Is like, oh well, that's what I want to do. I'm going to go try and do it.
I mean, I really do think, unfortunately, that we still have to work really hard. I mean, there's not a lot of margin of error for the mistakes, because you're kind of set up for that place where like people are always looking for a reason to kind of go back to what they know. So I think initially there was that drive, like I was like, you know, I got my foot in the door and I'm not gonna like let it go now. I'm just gonna keep driving and pushing, not like in a bully or like in a aggressive way, but for myself, like I'm not gonna let myself down because I got this opportunity. But I did feel a lot of pressure to not make mistakes, you know, because then I feel like I'm being judged, like, oh, you know, like, you know, she doesn't have that much experience, or, you know, all the things that people would say. And then you could say about a man, but because you're a woman, you kind of feel that a little bit extra, I think. I mean, maybe it's just me, but I definitely feel that way.
I think we have to fight harder still. There's a thing here with the key change in the industry, which helps, but you've still got to, you know, you're still dealing with like many years of a male-dominated industry, so it's going to take a long time before it levels out and before the opportunity is equal. It's also a big difference in pay for women and men.
But even in my heyday of like booking artists in Cork, it was so male-orientated.
Yeah.
I mean, it still is. It still is. It's a boys' world in general, and we all know this. Let's call a spade a spade. However, it's changing.
You did come up against resistance quite a lot from men who either found you intimidating or were attracted to you and then didn't want to deal with you, or you know, and then but you also found the gems that were very happy to and didn't see you either way. So I've been very lucky in that I've had a few mentors that were men and women that my gender was irrelevant to them.
So yeah, do you have any advice for women in music?
Starting out, I would say just say absolutely yes to everything. If they're asking you to sell merch, if they're asking you to stand at the door, if they're asking you to carry gear, just say yes, because the more you say yes, the more likely they're like, oh, that person will do it, and the more jobs you'll get and the better jobs you'll get.
You actually just have to keep fighting and working harder than everyone else. At first, and you'll carry on doing it because you're used to doing it. But also speak to other women and ask other women for help. I think a lot of the time women don't feel that they're valuable and therefore they don't offer advice or help.
I think we just have to be more proactive. If you're a female on tour, we have to open the doors for women coming up and get them out there and give them as much help and information and knowledge and empower them. You know, we're not going to be here forever and we don't want it to tail off.
Don't go in with your eyes closed. There's no name and lights. There's no, you know, glamour. It just isn't. It's hard work, but it's really rewarding. You do get to work with some incredible people. The few hours of that show, it's a real natural high that you just can't get anywhere else. It's exciting. It's different, it's varied, it's challenging, it's never boring, but it is time consuming.
I think if you want to do it, go for it. It's a great industry. I've had lots of fun on the way. I'm still having fun. I think if music is something you enjoy, or the entertainment industry, the arts, the creative arts, I think nothing beats working in an industry where it's also really, really fun.
The one thing I think people don't realize, you need to ask, you need to chase it, you know? Go to the promoters, go to the promoter reps, go whatever the role is that you want, find the company or the organization that does that, call them, email them, go call in and see them. Say, look, I'll do this, this is what I want, train me, make it, you know, I'm hungry.
Yeah.
And be your funny, wonderful, quirky, amazing, beautiful self. Be a woman, and you'll get it.
So that was just the rehearsal, right? We'll do the proper one now.
Okay. Yeah.